there, Screen Freaks. On a long workday in 1978, stuntman James Winburn paid a late-night visit to Pasadena, California, where a friend of his was hard at work on a low-budget horror movie about an escaped mental patient stalking babysitters on All Hallows Eve. Acting as a stunt coordinator for the night as a favor to writer-producer Deborah Hill, James' first task was to don the killer's costume and perform a fall from a second-story balcony after the character shot 6 times by his own doctor. While the free-falling stunt was done in one take and lasted mere seconds, James had unknowingly cemented his place in horror history as one of the first people in an exclusive club to play Michael Myers, lead slasher of the game-changing Halloween series. Even after a successful career working alongside such talents as Jim Carrey, Bill Paxton, Clint Eastwood, and in movies like Tron, Sword and the Sorcerer, and on TV driving KITT as David Hasselhoff's stunt double, horror fans still bring it all back to this iconic fall that continues to be celebrated today. While slinging this John Hancock around my favorite treasure chest of plastic goods from yesteryear and today, I managed to wrangle this professional fall guy in to yap about some of my favorite flicks he worked on. Being recognized as someone who played the Shape all these years, just how much do you associate with Michael Myers? Like, how often do you catch him on TV or see generic Halloween merchandise and think to yourself, hey, that's me?
Very little. I've never seen any of the Michael Myers films completely. I've seen parts of the one I did because I saw that the DGA, Directors Guild of America, when they had they showed the film to the cast and crew, and I got there late because I was working on the show, and so I didn't get to see all of that. So the editorial of it, I did see the fall. And then Deborah and I went out with John and Don Behrens, the production manager, and some of the crew, and everybody was signing the big posters, and all that stuff. And everybody's drinking the wine, and all that stuff was there and talking about it. Well, I had to leave because I was going to work again down in Los Angeles, swinging cars on a police story, and which I was under contract for a while. As you know, just going in and play a police officer and hot rod car and all that stuff. But after that, I've never seen any of the Michael Myers character films.
Popcorn's really been making a comeback in popularity these last few years. Can you share some of what you did in that film as a stuntman?
I doubled the lead, the guy who was a psycho in the theater, and it was an English, I should say a Canadian film, and they fired the original director and they stopped production, and then they decided that they would shoot the base of the film at a reasonable cost in Jamaica. So they called me and asked me if I would come to Jamaica and be part of the film. So Dick Butler, who was became the president of the Stunt Association a few months later after that film, and Mike Johnson, who was a heck of a stunt guy, and we went over there to Jamaica for a couple of weeks, and we worked in doing whatever they asked us to do. And they worked in the theater downtown, and in the market area. It was just bobbed and all that, and there's gangsters, real gangsters, were killing people right and left and blowing up bars, and I mean, it was a terrible situation. They should have shot Jamaica and forgot about the film because it was violent down there. We would go up on the rooftop and watch the shootout on the theater. And I mean, they were taking bodies and put them out in the middle of the street and set them afire, and the cops would just sit there and watch. It was really a bad situation. And but they completed the film, and like I said, I did whatever they asked me to do, and then doubling the psycho guy, and it was fun being down there. That's where you really want to carry a weapon.
One of the nicest celebrities I've ever met is Robert Z'Dar, who most know as the Maniac Cop. Working with him on Night Stalker and your directorial debut, Evil Altar, can you tell us what it was like working with the only chin to rival Bruce Campbell's?
I love Robert. Robert goes back a long way. And he did westerns with Mule Burner and all those people, you know, where he played a tough cowboy. Can't ride for birds, but he did a good job. But Robert was a superb actor. He was a teacher. He had classes. He would teach young actors and actresses on acting in film. We did a number of film, and in fact, he told me I should produce and direct a show. And I said, yeah, you're going. I said, I like what I'm doing, I get paid. I don't want to get paid as a producer because I'll never get paid. And but anyway, he came in and did a show that I wrote and produced and directed with a whole bunch of other actors. And they did bit parts on it, playing cops and detectives and stuff like that. And but Robert is a superb actor, but he's a superb individual. And we've been friends for 40 or plus years or more. And the things he's done, and he's a very strong person with his beliefs, you know, in acting and how to resolve problems. And like a lot of actors are that are truly actors, not just people there to do pornos or whatever they're doing. But the point is that they want the industry to succeed. They want good films. They want this. Robert is a type of character that works his butt off. I mean work. He develops his character. He knows his lines. He'll talk to the director about adding lines because of the story that's going on between the characters. And it was an honor and a privilege to know him all these years and be a friend of mine. And like I say, I love him dearly.
One credit to viewers that stands out from the rest as far as genre and taste is concerned is Dyanne Thorne's second Ilsa flick, Ilsa, Harem Keeper of the Oil Sheiks, which is a racy exploitation film full of BDSM fetishes and white slave trade action. As a stunt coordinator, what was your involvement in the movie, and do you have any stories working with its leading lady, the late Dyanne Thorne?
Well, I have to tell you, Ilsa and the Oil Sheik was a Canadian production, first of all. And the guy who was coordinating the show originally was George Wilbur, but George is a real dear friend of mine. We've been friends for 55, 60 years. And we talk all the time today. And when they brought me in, Don Edmonds was involved with the productions, with the Canadian people. And we were shooting over in the Lot 2 of MGM, and which was the concentration camp and all that stuff, you know, and what was going on. And I was playing a German soldier, and we were doing combat fighting in the prison camp. And so I rigged myself up. So when George bayonet me in the wall, he tries to pull out the bayonet, he fires the weapon and I blow the squib. Well, I didn't tell George. Okay? And everybody was waiting for this, right? So when we were doing the combat, he throws me against the wall and he puts the bayonet, and it's a bayonet that half of the blade goes in, you know, inside the other blade. So it looks like you're going into the body. But when he pulls it out, I blow the pot and it's just blood and everything flowing everywhere. It just frightened the hell out of George. Well, anyway, they ended up and asked me if I would take over the show. And I said, no, as long as George is here, I won't do anything like that. Well, they asked George to do the next show, and what they did, George didn't want to do it, so they gave it to me. And that's how I got involved. Getting back to Ilsa and the sheet, it was a sheet. So, but she was fun to work with, but she was very serious. And I did that 2 shows with her, and that was it.
While a professional stuntman does their best to practice safety first, it ain't always a guarantee you'll come out of every stunt unscathed. Can you show us on the Steve Austin doll some of the worst blows you've taken over your career as a fall guy?
Okay. I did a transfer on a pilot for Goblin. I did a file where I transferred from a helicopter to another helicopter in the air over a lake. And what happened is the helicopter, hello, I'm fine. The helicopter turned and the other helicopter goes like this. So as it turned, I left the helicopter and I go over and I get the squib, the skids. And then I had locks on my arms that once I grabbed, the locks would come on so they couldn't lose me. Well, on the jump of the first one, the helicopter went like this as I took off, but it went like that, and here I'm in space. So I fell 80 feet into the water. And we talked about, after they got me out of there, because when I was falling, I started counting. And I turned my body into what I'm going to do, and I bring my legs up, so just when I hit the water, I straighten out. And then I turn in so I don't go all the way to the bottom. And you learn that in diving and everything. But anyway, the second time was the set, which was 4 hours later. And talking to the helicopter people, I said, you can't do an 80-degree turn. You got to turn it up 20 degrees. You go 20 degrees, and I'm in between, you know. So the second one was good. I've been out backwards on Evil Altar, I think it was Evil Altar. I went through the wall and then out the tower and fell 60 feet to an airbag. It was a two-stage airbag. What happens, you have to, just before impact, you have to turn off the bottom airbag so it doesn't bounce up like a trampoline in the old days, before they developed it more. The guy who was spotting me and the other stunt guy, and the guy who was on the trigger of setting the fans off on the stage one area so I would go through and not bounce back up, didn't turn the fans off. No! So when I hit the back up, I went again, and I went right into the fan and knocked me out. And I was laying there unconscious. And everybody ran, and I had 4 cameras on me. And one of the guys who was working the production was a very church-going medical type church. They believed in medication and all that stuff. Was working on me, trying to revive me, while they were calling the ambulance, whatever they thought. They didn't know how serious I was hurt. And they were massaging me and doing it. Well, anyway, this guy who was a religious medical doctor, I call him, got everybody back, and he put his hand behind my head and started massaging my neck and saying something to me in some kind of language, Christian language. And within minutes, I was sitting up and I said, camera 1, how you doing? Camera 2, what's going on? Camera 3, and they were telling me. And everybody's looking at me. And on camera 3, I think, had a malfunction, so they shut it down. But the other 2 got me. And you'll see it in the film. And so it was a religious situation. Finally, the first aid ambulance got there, and I said, send him back home, man. I don't need it. And then they said, you all right? I said, I'm fine. Whatever he did in his meditation of what he believed in brought me out of this coma of when I got knocked out. I had no injuries. I had no bruise, and I wasn't sore. And then after we reset and did a pickup shot on indoors, we went to the other area where I tracked through the trees all the way down into the highway. And on the same day. So I've been tweaked, but never broke anything, God willing. The only time that I really got hurt, which when I flipped the car and the cage came in on me and it hit me in the chest. So they had to cut me out of the car. And we were talking all the time. But what happened, it put a blood clot on my thymus gland, on my chest. And, which I didn't know at that time. And months go by, a year go by. The tumor got bigger. And then one day I picked up a glass of water and I couldn't hold it and it fell to the ground. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't do it. But what was happening, the thymus gland, who creates electronics to your brain, goes to your fingers and your legs and your mouth so you can chew in your eyes. You look like you're falling asleep. You can't keep your eyes open. No? It started getting worse and worse and worse. Well, I had to go to UCLA and they did a bunch of tests and they said I had to have surgery on my thymus gland and take out the tumor. And he said, there's 2 ways we can do it. And I said, 2 ways? He said, we can go down your neck or we can open up your chest. And I said, fillet me, baby, you ain't going down my neck. So they opened me up, cleaned it all out, never had any problems after that.
Well, thanks for yapping with me, James. Billy! You'll have to excuse me. It looks like my partner's gotten carried away with all the wall-to-wall goodies Toy Federation's packed in here. Well, I'll see you later, Screen Freaks. Well, howdy there, Scream Freaks. Well, thank you kindly for watching, and help yourself to more servings of Screaming Soup by visiting our site at screamingsoup.com. You can read our weekly updates, character bios, and interviews, catch up on past episodes, browse our store, and drool over the Howlin' Hottie of the Week. If you want to scream at us, just holler at screamingsoup@gmail.com, and don't forget to stalk us through social media, conveniently linked at the top of the site.